Transformers EarthSPark. After so many years of one bad sequel, a show that is the very definition of filler, and two trilogies made from what felt like legal obligation more than love for the franchise. Personally, it was a return to form in Transformers shows, with writing and acting on par with animated and Prime. Then it gets cancelled after season 1, season 2 being a gap filler until Cyberworld comes out. So, what happened? Personally, there's one big reason with a few smaller reasons that add up in a death by a thousand cuts way. So here's what I think got EarthSPark to end sooner than likely intended. The art style. As overall it's good, but there are some things in it that were a bit uncanny, like Optimus Prime's face having no forehead, massive cheekbones, and animated style chin, where since this is a show he kept his face mask down a lot of the time, means you had to look at uncanny face a lot, so you had to get used to it. Then with RC, like when she was first showed off, it looked like her face wasn't finished, personally. Like the sculpting was done, it wasn't given a texture. Then when the show did finally come out, the face still didn't look quite right, for lack of a better word, especially since with other fembots, she's the only one with that problem since all the others look fine. And there was some other design oddities, like the female secrets having catgirl ears, and hashtag having that like ponytail, but those are like minor things compared to Prime and RC's face. Well, for me personally. Now onto Megatron. And this is the first time in a show where Megatron was set up just a good guy, and in the Illumination one-shot type way, where he was always just a good guy, but he was pushed to do bad things by people around him. Which is something that I don't like, as the writers don't give Megatron a backbone. It's Megatron. If everyone should have the strongest backbone, it should be him, with only the Fallen and Unicorn giving Megatron pause, as both of them are just that much more stronger and powerful than he is. But EarthSPark finally made me understand why exactly I don't like Autobot good guy Megatron, as especially in this show, he just feels like another Optimus Prime, and specifically, he just feels like Beavis Prime. So in this show, it doesn't feel like we have Optimus Prime and Megatron working together, but we have G1 Prime and Beavis Prime working together. Whenever Megatron falls back into his bad habit of showing strength in order to lead, kind of comes off Beavis Prime did a Beavis thing by ripping off someone's face. Not to the same extreme, obviously, but that's just how it feels like. You don't get kind of dynamic you expect from Optimus and Megatron. Plus, Optimus and Megatron working together, nothing can really be much of a threat, as those two alone can just handle anything for them. Which ties into my next point of the show's total commitment of declawing anything and anyone that could have been an actual threat. As the second they're established as a threat, they get like tossed aside to never be seen again, like Soundwave and Shockwave. Like they're the only two full-on Decepticons that I think were an actual threat, but they get quickly tossed aside the second they got introduced. And with that agent from Ghost that was constantly after Bumblebee and almost finding out about the Terrans. Like, with Bumblebee, it turns out, no, he's not after Bumblebee for bad reasons. He's just looking for Bumblebee because he thinks he'd be a good fit for Ghost, because he genuinely believes in Ghost's methods and what he thinks they stand for. Which is fair, but to completely takes away any and all tension from scenes he was in the past. And when we kept getting told the Terrans must stay secret for now, Optimus doesn't fully trust Ghost fully. But then cut to an episode where the Terrans are just in downtown, not trying to hide. Like, okay, what a way to throw away all that tension you're kind of building up, even before the threat of the agent not being a bad guy. And then, personally, the biggest example of the show's total commitment to having non-threats is Tarantulas. When I first saw him in trailers, I thought, oh, Tarantulas, he's possibly even more insane than Shockwave. He could actually be a proper threat, while Smoundroid is more comedic of his ability. Tarantulas could be an actual threat to even both Optimus, Megatron, and the Terrans. Oh, never mind, he's a robot that wants to be a real boy. Which, granted, is a good way to write him for Shattered Glass, but this isn't this show's Shattered Glass timeline, it's this show's main timeline, and it just makes its inclusion feel less genuine. Like, it's more dangling keys in front of Beast Wars fans to get them to watch the show. As it just feels so ungenuine. As Tarantulas just feels like he's there as an in-name only character, which is something that I can't see for really anyone else, even Megatron, even though what I just said about him, but still. Like, at least with Megatron, even though I said he feels like one Beavis Prime, there's at least still something of Megatron in there, even past the design. But with Tarantulas, there's nothing. Like, yeah, he's a bit of a scientist, but that's only, like, a small portion of his character. Like, people don't remember Tarantulas for being a scientist as much they remember him as being an insane madman, who's also maybe a cannibalist? Dark to say, but really, like, his evilness is what made him stand out so much, and they took all that away. And as I said, that's good for Shattered Glass, but this isn't that. And if you wonder, okay, he's here, and written like this, but why isn't Drift here? Like, maybe instead of having classes there and not being in character, why not bring Drift in? and have him be a ghost make atone for his time as a Decepticon, as Deadlock. Especially that, Jeff's personal redemption arc, it ties into what the show's message is. Like, instead of butchering Travis's character, Jeff is just there. Why not just use him? It also ties into the needless changes I think the show did. Like gender swapping Skywarp, which is I know something that Cyberpunk did, but I'm annoyed that it happened there and annoyed that it happened here, especially since I've heard that Hasbro doesn't like Thundercracker get gender swapped, but Skywarp's okay, even though Skywarp in the TV show is the first Transformer to wake up on Earth. Like, even disregarding Beast Wars for a second, he is the first one to ever wake up on Earth. So that alone gives Skywarp the ability to stay as he was. Plus, I wouldn't be so as annoyed if they changed Skywarp's character, but they don't. As a male, Skywarp is a simpleton with a cool power, and as a female, she's a simpleton with a cool power. Granted, I love how they've animated Skywarp's teleportation. It's definitely cool as that Skywarp's teleportation power has ever looked. But past that, it just feels like, okay, if they're going to change nothing about how Skywarp's characterized, why change the gender at all? Especially since everyone's on for inclusion. Personally, that's not how you include more females in the cast. That's just lazy. Like, why bother making a brand new character while she can just slap on already established name with falling behind it? Personally, that's just insanely lazy. Especially since that dynamic with Nova Storm is the exact same dynamic Skywarp has with both Thundercracker and Starscream, the Becking twins, the Becking triplets. The dynamic is something that those three already had. So this is just a change just done for the sake of change, which that's not a good enough reason, and it just feels completely flat. Especially since this show also does dangles keys of other fans that want to see a complete team set. Like, with the Seekers, we have Starscream and Skywarp, but no Thundercracker. Especially since, given how this show pulls some inspiration from IDW, why isn't Thundercracker here? Like, why does, even as a background, or even as an Easter egg, I don't think I think Thundercracker once, even though he was he's a somewhat important character in the peacetime, like being a writer, I think even a poet, having a dog. Where is he? And also, like, with the Combaticons, we now have Swindle and Brawl, but where's the rest of them? Like, if you're not going to include a full team, why bring at least a few members to get people to think maybe we could at least see a full team, but we don't, which is personally, it seems annoying. But enough going around in circles for this part. Let's move on to the next one, which is the Earthborn bots, just being Autobots, which is fine, but at the same time, there's a potential story there of an Earthborn bot potentially becoming a Decepticon, which is what I thought Nightshade was going to be, since when I first heard that name, I immediately thought of a Decepticon. But as it further went along, it made clear that, oh no, Nightshade is going to be their own thing, which is fine. But man, I got hyped for a second, and nah, just playing the same again. But speaking of Nightshade, might as well get it out of the way. The controversy is such a non-issue. Like, so what? They're an Autobot. They're gonna do good things. I mean, yeah, maybe having 2 episodes dedicated to them being non-binary is maybe it's a bit much, but at the same time, who cares? Like, especially in the second episode, what's stopping you from, like, moving ahead 15 seconds? It takes more effort to complain about it than it is just to skip it. So since EarthSPark releases it in batches, so why even bother making a big deal out of nothing, personally? If you think that's a bigger issue, then you don't fully understand what Optimus Prime means by freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Now with that out of the way, let's go on to my second to last point of this section. Lefty characters appear in the trailers, appear them to be, oh, they're going to be very important to the show, only for them to just disappear after 1 episode. Like, okay, if they're going to hype them up so much, why only for 1 episode? Like, with Rodak in Chess, for example, felt like a good dynamic. Finally, one of Rodak's creations that doesn't immediately blow up in his face. And it also kind of feels like how some fans interpret him and the Dinobots' relationship. But nah, like, after that 1 episode, he's like one of those fathers that goes out to get the milk and never comes back. As it's never implied they even talk to each other again afterwards. Which, watching the show is really funny, but not for the reasons they're probably intended. Also, the characterizations of lefty characters is something I also don't really like, at least for Elite-1 and RC. With RC, this feels like a continuation of a Prime rating. It is fine, but personally, that feels like more like Chromia's characterization than RC, because RC's been more kinder, and Chromia felt like more like the rough and tumble tomboy. And then Elite-1 just feels like what I think Nova Star would be written as a pure hothead. Feels odd, since one of the few things I think the War for Cybertron trilogy did right was Elite-1. She just feels like a more fleshed out version of her G1 self in that trilogy. And in EarthSPark, outside of that one scene with talking to Bumblebee, Elite-1 isn't much of a leader. He's more of an action hero type character to be used in an action scene if the plot calls for the leader. And the reason I think could be why he isn't fully as herself, in my opinion, is because of Dorothy, or better known as Dor. That's not to say Dorothy makes anyone bad, far from it. But I think Dorothy fills in the exact same role Elena 1 does, being the person who's willing to take command if the situation calls for it, but outside of any serious scenario, Dor is willing to give advice and be a motherly figure. That is Elena 1, like how Optimus Prime is a fatherly figure. So, like, looking from the outside in, it feels like they sacrificed all Elena 1's personal, deeper characterization and just gave it to Dor. Which I feel like that's really unfair to both of them. Like, to be honest, both Megatron and Optimus, as I said before, take on the same role, just from different point of view. So I think they definitely could have done the same thing for both Dot and Elena 1, but they didn't for whatever reason. And finally, my last point. The setting is possibly a bit too different for fans to really enjoy. Well, it's too different for long-time fans to fully enjoy. It is a broad statement, and I do know there are fans that like it. Like, I mean, I like it to an extent, but one of the reasons why I think animated works so well is, it did change things, there's still enough that stay the same. Like, Autobots are good, Decepticons are bad, Megatron is still bad, but was like one or two things made the thing more fresh, like Magnus being the leader, and Optimus being the young leader with no experience. Like, I think those two things alone made animated film more fresh, and that approach, I think, was more better since there's only two major changes that made the setting feel fresh, and also just keeping things that worked. Whereas in this show, so many things got changed, and that might have alienated some fans, alienated enough people to not really give it a chance, which is definitely a bad reason, at least give the show a chance, but at the same time, I don't exactly blame a few people if that these changes were too much for them. But personally, all what I just said, all those are small issues. Because, as I said, as the writing for the show is really strong, and changes can make them be forgivable, for the most part. But what I really think killed this show was how bad that the release of episodes were, as EarthSPark only being available on Paramount Plus isn't a good way to see it, as Resistance is one of the smaller ones. But even that I don't think was much of an issue, as for some reason it decided to release the episodes in batches and stagger them worldwide. Why? Like, as someone who lives in the UK, I had to wait a whole month later to watch EarthSPark. Personally, that is what also got me to lose interest in EarthSPark. Notice how I haven't said anything about season 2? Yeah, personally, I just gave up. As, what's the point of getting hyped for episodes when you see the trailers, when you realize, oh, never mind, I'm not have to wait an extra month to even think about watching the show. Like, I scrambled to watch the first batch somewhere, but after the third time, I just gave up and began watching even new shows, like, at the time, Gundam Mission Mercury, or watching old shows like recently I've been watching G1 episodes on YouTube. Like, reading in batches, pulling back, then again, that cycle. Personally, that feels like diminishing returns, as less and less people will be coming back to those, other than the hardcore audience that really enjoy the show, which, if you are, great. But personally, it just comes off as someone up top wanting to both have a show that's bingeable, also want a somewhat regular release schedule for episodes. So having them release in batches is a compromise between the two, which personally, as I said, just making returns as it's not leading to either strength of a bingeable show or a show you're always coming back to. As, again, come back to Richard Mercury, for example, I was always excited for that show to come out every week and on a reliable schedule, especially worldwide, and we knew ahead of time of any issues. It was always exciting to watch that show and then go on the subreddit to talk about it. But for EarthSpark, like, after I think the first few batches, they just gave up. As after that, I never saw EarthSpark being mentioned other than the odd post. Instead of a pin post to talk about it. Like, there's something pin post because the larger audience just lost interest in it. That's what I feel like what happened, and this is why I think that this release schedule has diminishing returns. I might also have a side note for the toys, as personally, again, speaking from a UK experience, they were not easy to get a hold of. How they released them wasn't exactly really good, especially for later season characters, as I could get a hold of Twitch and Prime just fine, but anyone else? Nope. Granted, other than those two, I wasn't really interested in anyone else, but even when I was just looking around the Transformers section, it's always the first releases I kept seeing, and none of the later releases. And now, with EarthSpark being cancelled, quickly getting placed with Transformers 1 up, and that's how I also able to get the Transformers 1 Prime change to Prime. So I think that was what really killed EarthSpark. is how it was released and how its accompanying toyline was released. And I think that's what really brought down EarthSPark, where everything else I've mentioned before, just being like really bad icings on the top of this cake. But that's what I think happened with EarthSPark. But what do you think? How did you enjoy the show? And do you agree with what I said, or was there other things that I missed out on you thought could have added on to the sad end of EarthSPark? But either way, I thank you for watching this.